On today's Jerusalem Dateline, Israel advances in Gaza, revealing rocket sites in schools and mosques, while the spiritual war escalates. National prayer events at Jerusalem's Great Synagogue and the Western Wall unite Jews and Christians. And broken hearts with one plea, freedom for the hostages. Plus, simmering menace from Iranian proxies poised to attack Israel from all sides. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. 1 month since the October 7th massacre by Hamas, the IDF is fighting inside its main stronghold, Gaza City. However, Israel keeps getting pressure to declare a ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told ABC News Israel isn't ready for a ceasefire.
Well, there'll be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before. I suppose we'll check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods to come in, or our hostages, individual hostages to leave. But I don't think there's going to be a general ceasefire.
Netanyahu believes a ceasefire would hamper the war against Hamas and the effort to get the hostages. He also told 80 ambassadors what he believes is at stake in this war.
What we see is a broader battle between civilization and barbarism. The barbarism is led by an axis of terror. The axis of terror is led by Iran, and we believe that all civilized powers should back us in this effort, because this battle is your battle, and our victory is your victory.
Israel's military says it's cut off Gaza City and separated Hamas strongholds in the north and south. The fighting is now house to house and close quarter combat. The IDF also uncovered evidence of Hamas hiding rocket launchers inside a mosque and even this boys' club. An IDF officer showed the pictures on the wall, while at the end of the room are rocket launchers aimed at the Israeli city of Ashkelon and other cities to the north. Israel has long charged Hamas with using hospitals, schools, and mosques as cover for its military operations and says it constitutes a pattern of war crimes. The IDF also released this footage of Gazans fleeing the combat zone when they opened up a civilian corridor. And this video reportedly shows Gazans leaving the conflict zone under a white flag secured by Israeli tanks. Back in Washington, in a leaked memo, Politico reported some mid-level diplomats at the State Department are criticizing the White House for being too supportive of Israel and calling for a ceasefire. But at the White House, National Security spokesman John Kirby reminded the world why Israel is fighting this war.
I think it doesn't hurt for us here in the first week of November to remember what happened in the first week of October and what that felt like and what that looked like and the grotesque stories that were coming out of Israel on the 7th and the 8th and the 9th of October last month, and what they're up against, the kind of enemy they're up against.
Meanwhile, hundreds of Israelis gathered outside Israel's Knesset to support the more than 240 hostages.
I'm here today for him and all of the other hostages. We want them free. We want to know that they're alive. We want their families to know that they're not alone. I think, for all of us, the ultimate goal is to get them back and to have them free. Find them, get them back, bring them home. I think it's really simple.
Tensions are high along Israel's northern frontier. Kibbutz residents face relentless threats from Hezbollah rockets. Chuck Holton brings us the story from a community living in the shadow of conflict.
Early morning, and I'm driving along Israel's northern border. On the other side of that fence is Lebanon. I'm the only one out here for a reason. Hezbollah has been shooting at anything they see on the Israeli side. And while I can't show them, IDF fighting positions are spread all along the route. Overhead, an observation balloon guards the skies. My path leads to the village of Matsuva, a mere breath from the volatile border. This kibbutz sits only a couple kilometers from the Mediterranean Sea back there, and only about 2 kilometers from the Lebanese border. And so while it normally has 1,400 people living here, now they're down to just 100 essential personnel that are here to keep the farm running and take care of external security. The real question is, what is the new normal going to look like? Because many of the people who live here are saying they're tired of living under the threat from Hezbollah, which can launch rockets over here in a matter of seconds at any time. And it hasn't been just for the last 3 weeks. This has been going on for years.
Nothing will ever be the same again, more so in the south.
The once bustling village is now a quiet reflection of the turmoil.
They need to go hard and completely fix this problem. We've given in so many times. Every operation we start, and then we're requested ceasefire, and then there's a lot of things to consider with that, world opinion, citizens, and then it stops, and then within very little time, it starts up again. But this time, with all those atrocities, and they have to finish up. And they said it's going to take a while, and I'm sure it will. And we just have to be patient. But you can't live in a country where there's always a threat. It doesn't matter where you live.
From Northern Israel, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Up next, from Lebanon to Yemen, Iran's proxies go on the attack, threatening to unleash an all-out war on the region. Since the start of the Gaza war, several Middle East militia groups have joined Hamas in the fight against Israel and the United States. While the U.S. has expanded its presence in the region, it's kept its response limited because of concerns a spark could ignite a much bigger war. Gary Lane has the story.
Rockets fired against Israel from Lebanon and Yemen. U.S. troops also under attack. The Iranian regime continues to wage war indirectly in the Middle East through a network of proxy militias. For Iran, it's all about plausible deniability. The Islamic regime can claim it's not behind or involved in these attacks, all the while calling for death to the Zionist and America. It's important to know how far these Iranian tentacles reach throughout the region. Among them include the Houthis, a tribe of Shiite Muslims out of Yemen. This homegrown militia calls itself Ansarallah, the Fighters of Allah. Through Iranian support, the Houthis have greatly multiplied from about 2,000 armed fighters in 2005 to as many as 120,000 today.
Like Hamas, it depends on the Iranians for its military abilities, for its hardware, for its missiles, for its rockets, for its weaponry. The Houthis in Yemen are one of the clients that the Iranians like to switch on and off when they want to attack an enemy country without being held directly responsible for it themselves.
In 2019, Houthis launched a massive drone attack, targeting the world's largest oil processing facility in Saudi Arabia. Since the October 7th attack, the Saudis, United Arab Emirates, and United States have shot down Houthi missiles and drones headed for Israel. A greater threat than this group comes from South Lebanon, where Hezbollah has more than 150,000 rockets ready to launch en masse against Israel. Created and supported by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Hezbollah also controls the Lebanese government. Last week, in a public speech, leader Hassan Nasrallah stopped short of announcing an all-out war, while indicating all options were on the table. Middle East Forum chief researcher Jonathan Spire.
Iran has yet to instruct Hezbollah to really plunge into total involvement in the war and open a second front. They're trying to kind of distract attention from Israel with this drip of consistent attacks each day.
Spire believes the presence of the USS Gerald Ford carrier strike group in the region, combined with Israeli military power, is currently deterring greater involvement.
Israel has made clear, if Hezbollah does enter the war, Israel will hit back against Lebanon with full force.
Further east, the little-known proxy group Islamic Resistance in Iraq could potentially distract and ultimately pose a great threat to the United States. 2,500 U.S. troops are stationed at bases in Iraq, with as many as 1,000 remaining in Syria. Their presence is designed to limit influence from Russia and Iran in the region. Over the past 2 weeks, the IRI has claimed responsibility for repeated attacks against U.S. troops, including at least 23 missile strikes and multiple drone strikes. This little-known group, formed in 2020, is comprised of members from various smaller Iranian-backed militias.
It's not really feasible or tenable for America to continue kind of absorbing these hits. At least if America wants this to stop, the United States should take a little bit firmer action against these militias. At the end of the day, these are acts these are military acts. These are acts of war. Even if they're not, if nobody's yet been hurt or killed in them, thank goodness. I think that it's not really acceptable that United States forces should be facing daily harassment.
So far, the United States response has been limited to airstrikes in Syria on locations linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Greater steps against these proxies or their boss could come in various forms, including more severe oil sanctions or even strikes inside Iran. Military leaders, however, realize that either action could successfully result in deterrence or an escalation that possibly leads to a much bigger war. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Coming up, a nation united in prayer. Jews and Christians come together to seek the Lord while soldiers battle Hamas deep inside Gaza. Dozens of families who lost loved ones during Hamas's deadly rampage gathered in front of the Western Wall to honor the 1,400 people massacred about a month ago. Several rabbis, Israeli politicians, and Christian leaders also used the occasion to lead the country in a national day of prayer for Israel. George Thomas has more from Jerusalem.
Dor Hoshen is a broken man, carrying pain and sorrow of an unspeakable loss. Hoshen, a member of the IDF's Eagles unit, an elite fighting force, is still in complete shock a month after Islamic terrorists took the life of his sister, Hada Hoshen.
They were like monsters. They have no respect to human beings at all.
28-year-old Hada had joined some 3,500 young people at a music festival that weekend to celebrate the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, when dozens of Hamas fighters surrounded the grounds and went on a killing spree. Dor said his sister ran to a nearby bomb shelter to seek refuge.
Probably she died there inside the shelter, one of the shelters.
On Monday night, Dor joined families for the 30th day of mourning following the October 7th massacre. With the theme, "The Light Will Overcome," dozens of families came to this wall looking for the names of their loved ones. They lit candles in remembrance, all happening in the shadows of the majestic Western Wall. It was a chance for the nation to come together, to mourn and to remember. 1,400 candles lit in the memory of the 1,400 victims killed that day. Some, like this family, held pictures of their loved ones, while others drew strength from the pages of the Torah. Dor, who leaves for Gaza City soon, says he knows he has the prayers and support of a united nation.
Everybody needs to know that we are not going to lose, we are going to win, because we are strong, we are together.
Across town from the Western Wall, that theme of unity on display at the famed Great Synagogue as Jews and Christians gathered for a national day of prayer for Israel. Rabbi Tuli Wise, who helped organize the event, says there's more at stake here than just a military operation.
Prayer is the only thing that matters. Prayer is, this is not a conventional military warfare. This is a spiritual battle.
Wise said some 1,000 churches in 30 countries signed up to pray for Israel, many joining the service online as participants in the synagogue read and sang from the Psalms. Tommy Waller, an evangelical leader who runs a volunteer organization in Judea and Samaria, also called the West Bank, says in the last month tensions between Israeli settlers and Palestinians have been on a knife's edge.
Right now we have a situation where you have almost 3 million Arabs with 500,000 Jews living across the so-called Green Line right now. And it's a problem, it's concerning.
Rabbi Yehuda Glick, a former member of Israel's Knesset, spoke from Psalm 28, verse 9, and urged his fellow countrymen to call out to God in this time of great need.
And that right now, there's a war going on between civilization and barbarism. And we have to call the world, and we have to call Hashem and tell him, we understand that we are fighting your battle, the battle to sanctify your name.
The most moving moment of the prayer service came when Rachel Goldberg, whose son Hirsch was kidnapped by Hamas, urged people around the world to keep praying for the release of the hostages. She said she drew strength from reading the Psalms.
When we get discouraged, we're thankful that we are faithful and we believe in God. And we're thankful for our friends around the world in the Jewish community, in the Christian community.
George Thomas, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Still ahead, hundreds of hostages taken to Gaza that terrifying October 7th morning. Israelis rallying around the world. Their message, bring them home. During the October 7th massacre, Hamas terrorists took around 240 hostages, men, women, and children, including the elderly and disabled people. So far, the terror group has only released 4. Mark Martin has more on the push by family and friends to free the rest.
My name is Rachel, and I am the mother of Hirsch Goldberg Poland. He's my eldest child and my only son.
Recently at the United Nations, Rachel Goldberg continued her quest to bring her son home. Hamas militants abducted the 23-year-old U.S.-Israeli citizen at the music festival in southern Israel, where so many others lost their lives. Hirsch crowded into a roadside bomb shelter along with more than 24 others as the terrorists attacked.
Hamas militants came to the doorway and began throwing in hand grenades. Next, Hamas fired into this small concrete room of 29 music lovers, an RPG, and then sprayed the room with machine gun fire.
Severely wounded, Hirsch survived, as can be seen in this video Rachel obtained.
All the witnesses we spoke to said they saw that Hirsch's left arm from the elbow down had been blown off, and that he had fashioned some sort of bandage or tourniquet of some sort, because they saw that, and the young men walked out and they were loaded onto a pickup truck.
Hamas captured Hirsch and more than 200 others. Family and friends anxiously await news about their loved ones, hoping they're still alive. In a nationally televised address, Israeli President Isaac Herzog said, "The abductees are in the forefront of our mind, and their return is an integral part of winning the campaign." A special forces operation rescued one hostage, a female Israeli soldier, and Hamas has released 4 others. Israelis lined up in Tel Aviv holding photos of those forcibly taken to Gaza, demanding they be set free.
We're calling to the world to declare that the Red Cross be able to visit them, that we know a sign of life from all of these innocent people who were kidnapped on October 7th, and that they be freed in an exchange.
I'm standing with the sign of Ivan that I don't know of. I don't recognize him, but I feel connected to him and hope he is well.
Rachel Goldberg desperately hopes her son is alive.
I have this mantra that from the beginning I've been saying to Hirsch, that I constantly am saying, we love you, stay strong, survive. We love you, stay strong, survive. And sometimes I just do this, stay strong, survive, and I realize that it's actually me that I'm saying it to, and not just him.
And she talks about finding great strength and support when people from all over the world reach out and say, we are with you and we are praying for you. Mark Martin, CBN News.
For survivors of October 7th, the need for support has been ongoing. CBN Israel has been one of the organizations ensuring they don't go it alone.
For us to have incoming rockets is not strange. Even infiltrations is not strange. But the infiltrations on this scale and the amount of destruction and inhumane deeds done, no one in this community has been unscathed.
Every single person here knows somebody that has some barbaric actions done to them.
What I will feel more late after I will understand the trauma, what they did to my kibbutz. That's it.
The feeling that you can't help. Sorry.
The children were scared. She was afraid to sleep. She would wear her shoes and clothes. She sat on a folding chair by the door, but she didn't want to lie down. She thought it would happen again. It happened again in the evening, and we rushed to the stairs.
You can't fathom it. You can't fathom it. It's the grief that's ripping us apart.
And it's never happened something like that. And now when it's happened, I don't know how I felt safe before. And I don't know how we are going back again.
So many children, so many kids, so many adult people that have family and just can't. You have to understand 25% of a small place, a small kibbutz, a small village are gone. This is a number that you cannot imagine. We cannot be alone here. I mean, we need a lot of support.
We have been relying on the generous donation of places like CBN, which is an incredible organization that is not just with us the day before the war or the day after. They have been with us on a long journey.
Thank you very much for your supporting us. Really, sometimes I feel that the world don't know what is this terrorist.
These people who are looking out for us and saying, these people are refugees, they need a place to be. And this is donors and community people standing together with Israel.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. And remember to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the return of all hostages from Gaza. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.